All right, a very good morning to you. Welcome along to Wednesday morning's Off the Ball AM, and we've got a very busy show for you lined up today. We're going to talk with the star of Ireland's half-pipe history, I think is really the correct way of talking about Seamus O'Connor. He's the only one we've ever had, represented us at the Olympic Games as a 16-year-old, and blew his knee out about 18 months ago and didn't look like he was going to make these games, but did make them. Unfortunately, hasn't made the final. Will talk to us live from Pyeongchang in about an hour's time. Graham Hunter's going to give us his thoughts on last night's performance in Turin from Spurs, coming from 2-0 down. The bang of 1999, Man United against, although Man United did win that game, so maybe Spurs needed a third goal just to... 2 goals conceded in the first 10 minutes, exactly the same thing. Same scenario as what happened when... Does everything come back to Roy Keane? I suppose it does. Owen, how are you? Good morning.
Very well, good morning.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day to you as well, Ger.
What have you got planned for us?
I don't know, I'll probably go get a burrito or something. You know, that's how I like to celebrate my Valentine's Day. You know, it's
very romantic.
It is, it really is. You know, good old Pablo Picante is the best burrito in town if anybody's looking for a date.
Oh, there are other burritos, of course. The good people at Boojum sometimes send stuff in.
Do they? Oh, well, sorry, Boojum then, of course, because literally we never get sent anything free from Pablo Picante, so...
no, it's true.
Boojum will be right back up to the top of the pecking order if they do send us in any burritos on this beautiful day.
I managed to miss all the pancakes that were sent to the office yesterday.
Well, you just got into the office too late, really. I think by the time you got in at a regular working person's time, they were all gone. There was an airline in, and they had nice sponsored pancakes named after destinations, kind of things like Boston cream and New York cheesecake were some of the flavours that you could have enjoyed yesterday.
What did you have? Was it nice?
I was just like, can you just put like cream and chocolate sauce on it and just give it to me, please? And I was like, you know, screw your destinations and your advertising campaigns.
It was Aer Lingus, and also Captain America sent stuff in too.
Yeah, I didn't get any of the Captain America stuff now, but I can confirm that the Aer Lingus stuff was delicious.
Okay,
so you missed out big time, no question.
All right, what are we talking about today?
Well, we're going to talk about the Champions League, obviously, as you mentioned at the top of the show, because of that kind of Manchester United-esque night in Turin last night when Spurs were so far dominant of this Juventus team that the fact that there was 2 early goals for Juventus was the greatest thing that could possibly have happened in this game because of the fact that Spurs were just so much better than them. Dominated midfield. Harry Kane, clearly the best striker on the pitch. Gonzalo Higuain kind of summing up his career in a microcosm in the space of about an hour last night. I think Barney Ronay and The Guardian this morning described his penalty as a fat Sunday League player's penalty, which was kind of accurate. I haven't watched too many Sunday League games myself, but I'm going to take his word for it. It was a desperate penalty, and after that unbelievable goal to start the game, it just did, as I say, sum up his career in the space of 45 minutes to an hour.
You haven't mentioned Mr. Dembele yet, but you've been raving about him in the office all morning.
Yeah, kind of on the back of Saturday as well, just because of how good he was against Arsenal. And I think Alison Rudd in The Times on Monday summed it up very well, that when Moussa Dembele was playing for Fulham, he obviously played in a more advanced role, was just a more attacking player. And because of that, he's got more of an appreciation of what a holding midfielder or essential midfielder needs to do to complement his attacking players. And Moussa Dembele has clearly learned from that and has learned in this current role just through experience and has become one of the best midfielders in the Premier League and completely outshone the Juventus midfield last night. And like, we have to say as well that Christian Eriksen was vital in all of this last night, because on commentary Kevin was raving about Dembele for the entire match, but Eriksen was outstanding as well. When they were going against the grain, the way Eriksen dropped deep to help wrestle back possession, that was a key part of the match. All
right, so that's exactly what Kev's saying there in his tweets on commentary last night. And then the boss, Moussa Dembele, might be called a genius again by his manager. 99 passes, 7 dribbles, 4 tackles, 2 chances created and 1 interception. So 116 touches, not bad.
Yeah, Christophe Tourder, the Belgian journalist, he knows what he's talking about. And yeah, like, it's not one of those performances that you kind of are wowed by. You just start to see Dembele doing everything right in and around, I'd say around half an hour into the game. And you're like, wait a minute, Dembele hasn't put a foot wrong here. And at that point, you just watch the rest of the game, and everything Dembele is doing, you're watching in much closer detail. And he continues it for the rest of his performance in the night. And it was just close to flawless. And you look at somebody like Sami Khedira, who isn't a Khedira of old, granted, but was completely played off the park. The game completely bypassed him. And even on the Spurs front, the game to a certain extent bypassed Dele Alli because Dembele and Eriksen were so bloody good, and if they weren't playing it out to the wide channels, when Davies and Aurier were better going forward than they were defensively, then the ball was just bypassing everybody and getting straight to Harry Kane, who himself proved himself again last night. And Spurs have a real chance of going very, very deep in this competition if they manage to avoid injuries. The only thing you would just question is why Maurizio Pochettino deems Serge Aurier to be a better right back than Kieran Trippier.
He just has this thing about changing up his fullbacks, and has had over the last couple of years, to make sure that they get a bit of a rest and that everybody's fresh all the time.
Yeah, like Danny Rose probably would have played last night or against Arsenal had he been fit, or had Maurizio Pochettino actually liked him. It is fair, he has done that for the last couple of years, and he obviously did it with Trippier and Walker, but I don't think Aurier could hold a candle to Kieran Trippier given the form he's in. He was outstanding against Arsenal on Saturday, and he was the man of the match in my view against Real Madrid in the first section of the Champions League.
So coming up on the show today, as I said, very busy. Frank Greaney is going to give us the very latest from Belfast with the Paddy Jackson-Stuart Olding trial. We'll preview tonight's Champions League action. Obviously Liverpool are in action. That might not be the biggest Champions League game of the night. Real Madrid PSG as well. Graham Hunter's going to give us his thoughts on that, and we'll look back as well on what happened last night. Bringing to you the sports pages, Donnacha Ryan's going to talk to us about sweet talking referees and just hanging out with them in the aftermath of games and the difference that might make to how you get refereed personally, and loads more besides, including your comments coming in on YouTube, on Facebook or on Twitter, wherever it is that you consume this show, and whatever part of the day it is that you consume this show. We'll read all your comments, so get them in.
Let's have a look at the Irish Times. Most papers this morning leading with last night in Turin. Eriksen strikes to crown stunning Spurs fight back, reads the headline from David Heitner's piece here. 2 goals down after 8 minutes. Tottenham now hold the edge in the tie, and the edge they certainly hold. If the game goes like last night's one in Wembley in the second leg, Spurs are definitely going through to the quarter-finals. In the Irish Examiner then, Comeback Kings reads the headline. Spurs overcome nightmare start to draw in Turin. While on the back of the Times Ireland edition, the headline is Spurs back from the dead. Kane and Eriksen seal draw after Juventus take 2-0 lead in 9 minutes. On the back of the Star then, Turin proud is the headline there. Poch praises stunning Tottenham fight back, says Scott Coleman. Tottenham pulled off a stunning turnaround in Turin to keep their Champions League dream alive, reads the start of the piece. While on the back of the Irish Sun, onward Christian soldiers, Eriksen caps fight back. And finally for me for now, on the back of the Mirror, you've got half the job done, or Juve have got half the job done. Super Spurs take control with first goals of 2018 against Italian giants.
Headline works both ways, of course, because Juventus have half the job done as well.
Yeah, they really, really do. It is 2-2.
There you go. Gavin in standoff with RTÉ. This is the lead on the back of the Irish Independent today. Dispute over match tapes for analysis linked with absence of post-match interviews. So it's hard to discern exactly what's going on here. It appears Declan Bogue has details in one of the other newspapers, I think it might be the Times Ireland edition, that the Dubs made a request to RTÉ for access to some tapes of opposition, and it either was not filled or not granted. So not precisely clear on why Jim Gavin hasn't been speaking to RTÉ TV or radio in the post-match after the last couple of rounds of league matches, but it has definitely happened. Apparently it's not that big a deal to get access to matches. I thought that maybe somebody would have to sit and burn a DVD, but actually it's just a file that sits somewhere on a server. Yeah, that's my understanding, that it's a cloud service that is essentially an email address you can send to somebody and they can watch the matches back. Because ultimately RTÉ doesn't have this deep pool of match footage that doesn't get shown on League Sunday, for example. There's only a certain amount of broadcast trucks available. So the highlights that we see on League Sunday is literally the entire available bank of video content. So I know this is kind of a different point, but when people complain about people not showing enough Division 3 or 4, they literally can't. They don't have enough cameras, they don't have enough of production vans to actually produce these things. So it's my understanding that these matches get recorded in full, broken down for the highlights packages, and those full matches are accessible by sending somebody the email or sharing them, whatever it may be, the cloud, the Dropbox or the Google Drive, whatever it may be. So if that's the issue, then it really is a very... Should all teams get it though, or do you automatically have a right as one team? If they do it for them, do they then have to do it for every single other team in the country? Yeah, I don't think there's any problem with giving the counties, as long as they come to you and ask for it. I mean, that's showing wherewithal.
Well, you're not rebroadcasting them, are you? I mean,
No, but there's clearly value to it, right?
There is, and it's an interesting one. Maybe it shouldn't be for free, and maybe somebody like Dublin can easily afford whatever the nominal fee may be for this. But essentially, all RTÉ are doing is to have the stuff anyway. They're just basically taking Jim Gavin's email and putting it into their share on Google Drive.
Yeah, it is theirs though. Like,
yeah, it's a fair point. But like,
it'd be good if everybody would just come out and issue statements around this stuff. Here's why we're not doing it, because of this happens.
Like it's not beyond the bounds possibility that RTÉ doesn't want to share this with Jim Gavin because Jim Gavin didn't speak to them last year after the Diarmuid Connolly stuff.
Ooh, a petty subplot, but I like where you're going with that.
But I am in no way suggesting that that's the truth. I'm just saying that may be one of a number of options that could be happening here.
That'd be pretty petty from RTÉ, wouldn't it?
It would be very petty. Very, very petty.
The back page of the Racing Post is on the front foot, Dragons and Reds to come out firing in last 16. These are just match previews, really, on days like this. Their main story is Aintree Ace Black Lion reminds me of Red Rum. Nigel Twiston Davis heaping high praise on Black Lion in that one. And Duvan has got an entry for the Red Mills Chase at Goran Park on Saturday. I think going up against Arduke, if I'm not mistaken. I'll try and get that confirmed for you. We'll make them suffer. Liverpool's Firmino lays down gauntlet to Portuguese hosts. This is better pre-match patter than you normally get. The big story really from an Irish sports perspective. It's a Des Berry exclusive on the back of the Herald. 6 weeks for Heaslip comeback. So he reckons there's a possibility that the Ospreys game on March the 24th will be Jamie Heaslip's return to action for Leinster, which would be great to see. It's over a year since he played for Leinster. It's 14 months, I think, and it's a year almost exactly since he last played for Ireland in the Six Nations. So it's been a pretty horrific time with injury for Heaslip.
Yeah, March 24th, of course, 1 week before their Champions Cup quarter-final in the Aviva Stadium. So that would be perfect timing from a Leinster perspective, given one of the themes around all the injuries that happened last week with Furlong, who's going to be okay, but mainly with Robbie Henshaw, is that all these injuries that have occurred have been Leinster players that seem to have gone down. So at least some good news at last for Leo Cullen.
Yeah, so I think I'm right about this. The Red Mills Chase at Goran had already promised a clash between Arduke and Presenting Percy, and now Duvan has been added to the mix with Tuesday's entries. So, right, a glorious fight back. Spurs go 2 down in 9 minutes, then outclass Italians to grab draw. That's the front of the Telegraph. And then it's the skating. Christie crashes out again. Jinxed skater left in tears. Did she finish fourth?
She finished fourth. She ended up coming last in a 5-person final in the speed skating 500 metres yesterday, and one of the athletes got disqualified. Now, Christie crashed because she really went for it on the last turn. If she hadn't gone for it and held her third position or her fourth position, she would have got bumped up into the medal positions. So it's kind of a catch-22 there. She went for the gold and she ended up getting nothing, whereas if she settled for a medal position, she definitely would have guaranteed something because of the disqualification of the Korean skater.
What do you do?
I don't know. I think you go for the gold. She's got other events. I think she does 1500 as well, and maybe the 1000. So she's got other events, and I think, if I'm not mistaken,
that's the right answer, right? Screw this settling. Like, the whole point of being involved from the time you were a child was to try and win.
Yeah.
And it's there for you. You go for it.
Yeah, like it is.
You don't die wondering, maybe I could have won gold if I'd taken the risk. You didn't. Fair play to you.
That's the thing. It's a high risk sport. Like, we were watching it in the office yesterday. It's unbelievably enthralling because just if you get something wrong by a millimetre, you're going to crash and you're going to get nothing, and that's the sport she's in. So fair play to her for going for it, but she's got more chances. She could come away with a gold. The only thing is she is the world record holder in that particular 500 metres. So I think, if you're a world record holder and you're lingering around fourth, you're going for the front, aren't you, on the last straight?
Yeah. No, fair enough. All right, as ever, if you want to get in touch with us, you can drop us a comment at Off the Ball AM on Twitter or at Off the Ball. There's 2 accounts, obviously, and you can sign up for notifications from both of them. You can also get us on youtube.com/Off the Ball. That's where we put up all of our longer interviews, so make sure you subscribe to that to get some details of content that you won't actually get live on the show every morning here. Some of the longer form interviews that we do, like the Donnacha Ryan one, for example, that we did. We're going to play a couple of minutes from that a little bit later on. But now to Belfast. Frank Greaney, our courts correspondent, joins us this morning for the latest from the Paddy Jackson Stuart Olding trial. Frank, good morning to you. We might just start with a bit of a recap about what happened yesterday before we talk about what might come up today.
Sure. Well, yesterday was the complainant's 8th day in the witness box. She spent 7 of those 8 days being cross-examined, and yesterday morning when the court reconvened was the prosecuting barrister Toby Hedworth's opportunity to re-examine her on any issues that arose through those 7 days of cross-examination. Now, he didn't take very long in his re-examination of the witness. But he did put a few points to her, mainly Paddy Jackson and Stuart Olding's versions of events, which were put to her by their defence barristers while she was being cross-examined. He asked the woman, was she aware what Paddy Jackson's case is? She said no. And he said, well, Paddy Jackson claims that he did not have sex with you. And she said that was incorrect. And then he said that Stuart Olding will claim that he came into the room, into Paddy Jackson's bedroom, and that she was straddling Paddy Jackson, and that she performed oral sex on him when he came over to the bed and joined in. She said that was not correct. And they also spoke about a note that was brought up during cross-examination, and this was a note that she had penned herself when she went back to her own house at about 5 o'clock in the morning of June 28th, 2016. This is after leaving Paddy Jackson's home in South Belfast after the alleged attacks. We heard that another man, a fourth man, Rory Harrison from Mance Road, who's facing charges of perverting the course of justice and withholding information from the police. We heard that he brought her home in a taxi, and that when she got home, she penned a note. She had asked Rory Harrison the name of a third accused who's facing one count of exposure, Blaine McElroy from Royal Lodge Road. And on this note then, which was read out in court yesterday, were the words Blaine, a reference obviously to Blaine McElroy, one of the accused, Stuart Olding, and then the words blonde, short, imbecile and monkeyish. And she was asked about those words, and she said those were words used to describe Stuart Olding. She'd actually written Paddy Jackson's name on the note, not Stuart Olding's. She wasn't aware of Stuart Olding's name at the time, so she wrote down those words to help her memory when she went to the police later on. Once she stepped down from the witness box, then having spent 8 days in the witness box, Toby Hedworth began calling the prosecution's witnesses, and 3 girls were called yesterday, and these were the girls that were also at the party in the early hours of June 28th, 2016. I won't identify them. There's no legal impediment to identifying them, but the girls will remain nameless for the sake of this report. And I suppose the one of most significance was the last one called, because this girl walked into the room at one point, into Paddy Jackson's bedroom, and she spent the most time in the witness box yesterday. She said she had been out with some friends the night before. They had all been in a nightclub in Belfast City called Ollie's nightclub, and she described going back to the party. She said that she didn't know the complainant before the party. She'd never met her before, but that they did speak briefly at the party. She said she was quite nice. She said she didn't remember her being overly drunk. And she said at about 4 o'clock in the morning then, she decided that it was time to go home. So her and another friend went upstairs looking for a third friend. They weren't able to locate her. She had felt quite ill and had gone upstairs. They weren't aware of this, but she had felt quite ill and gone upstairs, and she was actually asleep on a sofa. So she said yesterday in her evidence that when she was about halfway up the stairs, she heard some moaning. She said that it didn't sound distressed, but it was coming from a bedroom at the top of the stairs. And she said that she went into this bedroom, that she only spent less than a minute in there, and that she turned around to her friend when she came outside, and she said that she had just seen a threesome. Now, as part of her direct evidence, Toby Hedworth then went into great detail about what she saw when she went into the bedroom for that brief time. She said she saw Paddy Jackson having sex with the complainant while Stuart Olding was lying on the bed. The 3 of them were on the bed, and Stuart Olding was lying on his back on the bed with his head towards the pillows, and she said that the complainant's head was towards the middle of his body. Under cross-examination then, she said that she didn't think that the woman was distressed when she walked in the room that time. She didn't think that she had just witnessed a rape, and these were things that she said in her police interviews when she was asked to come in and make a statement after the complaint was made back in 2016. She said that she didn't feel that the woman, that she just witnessed a rape. And she was asked under cross-examination by Paddy Jackson's barrister, Brendan Kelly, if she saw any signs that the woman was not consenting to what was going on, and she said no. And when she was re-examined then later by Toby Hedworth, that point was again put to her, and she was asked, well, did you see any signs that she was consenting to what was going on? And again, she said no.
Yeah, this obviously contradicts Paddy Jackson's case too, that he didn't actually have sex with the complainant as well. So that was the other piece of evidence that I think people were reporting on yesterday that was kind of important just to bear in mind, that this has become complicated with the various accounts, but to try and remember exactly what it is that is the case that the defence is making and what the case that the prosecution are making.
Of course, yeah, and it is the case with these kinds of cases where it's one person's version of events against another's. In this instance, it's one person's version of events against several others. And Paddy Jackson, well, the claim she has made against Paddy Jackson is that up to his bedroom back at his house at this party, and that there was some consensual kissing, that Paddy Jackson then tried to undo her trousers, and that she made it very clear to him that she didn't want to take things any further, and that she went back downstairs. She said the atmosphere had shifted when she went downstairs. She said Blaine McElroy was sitting on the sofa. He had two other girls on his knees. They were taking selfies, and that she decided that it was time to leave. But she had left her bag upstairs in Paddy Jackson's room. And she said that when she went up for that second visit to his bedroom, that he was at the foot of the bed. She doesn't know whether he came in before or after her, but that he pushed her onto the bed and that he forced himself on her, and that Stuart Olding then came in and joined in. Paddy Jackson claims he didn't even have sex with her. He said that he admits that there was some kissing, and that she willingly performed certain sex acts on him, but he says in his version of events that he didn't have sexual intercourse with her. And when that was put to the complainant yesterday, she, like I mentioned, said that was incorrect. Now, this witness has got up into the stand and said she was 100% sure that they were having sex, and she said under cross-examination that she was 100% sure by the movement that Paddy Jackson was making.
Frank, what's scheduled to happen today?
Toby Hedworth so the three girls that gave evidence yesterday have all concluded their evidence. They've all been cross-examined. And I suppose just in relation to one of the two other girls, it's worth mentioning that this is the girl who felt ill. She was quite drunk on the night, and that Stuart Olding had brought her upstairs and she slept on a sofa. Nothing untoward, she said, happened between herself and Stuart Olding. But he was also on the couch when she woke up that next morning. The two friends of hers had gone home in a taxi when they couldn't find her. And she said that her phone was in Paddy Jackson's bedroom, and that she rang one of the other girls. This is the girl that walked into the bedroom, and that over the course of that phone call the following morning, the friend said that she had walked in on Paddy Jackson having a threesome. And she told the court yesterday that she put this to Paddy Jackson. She was obviously still in his house, and that when she did, Paddy Jackson simply shook his head and said, no, nothing happened. So those three girls have now given evidence, and Toby Hedworth, when the court reconvenes at 10:30 this morning, will begin to call further prosecution witnesses. Just judging by the list of prosecution witnesses that we were given at the outset of this trial, and there are over 30 of them, one of the more significant witnesses, I suppose, will be the taxi driver that brought the complainant and one of the other accused, Rory Harrison, back to her house in the early hours of June 28th, 2016. So he could be, the natural course of things is that he would be called today, or her friends, the complainant's friends that she was in text conversation with. She told them afterwards that she had been raped by two Ulster rugby players. They may be called today, just the natural course of things, but it is obviously up to Toby Hedworth to call witnesses as he sees fit.
Great. Frank, thanks very much for joining us, and obviously we'll stay tuned to Frank Greaney's coverage of this continuing trial. Now, as ever, if you want to get in touch with us, you can drop us a comment in the comments below on YouTube, on Facebook or on Twitter. Now, let's move on to football. Here's Kenny Cunningham and Kevin Kilbane talking about the Spurs midfield on last night's Off the Ball.
Barney Ronay made the point that Dembele is an interesting case in that if you were to look at football stats, Dembele's stats are terrible. He has no assists, and he doesn't feature prominently in any area of the game. Ground covered, goals scored,
ground covered,
and all of the stuff that people might look at, the measurables. But he made the point. It was after the Arsenal game at the weekend. He made the point that actually there doesn't seem to be any great way to measure Dembele's brilliance. That he's an absolutely fantastic footballer, and there's no stats which show that. He's just brilliant.
Do you know what? I could hear Kenny's reaction there when he said to ground covered. If you look at him tonight, ground covered, I'd say probably covered more ground than any other player on the pitch. I think the weak link, and I still stand by it, I think Eric Dyer is the weak link in Spurs' side. I think when he gets in comfortable possession, I think he dwells on the ball, he doesn't move it quick enough. I think Wanyama's a better option for Spurs. But Dembele alongside him tonight, he was the one that was able to, at times even, he saw Douglas Costa, a couple of runs that he made when he was able to get in possession, getting away from defenders with his pace. Dembele was the one that was getting back goal side, and again, as Kenny spoke about earlier, his body strength, getting across his man to stop any form of attack. So I don't necessarily buy that. I think because he's not having an influence further up the pitch because of assists and everything, because he's the one that's starting the attacks for Spurs.
Kevin Kilbane speaking last night on the show. Let's join Graham Hunter to get his thoughts on maybe an instant spring classic, 2-2 draw at the in Turin for Spurs last night. I was saying there's a bang in 1999 off this, although maybe Spurs needed to pull out a winner just to recap the exact memory of what happened. And obviously it was much further on in the tournament. But these are the type of performances, Graham, that at the end of a season you look back and you pinpoint moments and you go, yeah, coming back from 2-0 down against Juventus, that's something pretty special.
Spurs fans, Ger, will have a kind of a unilateral kind of it's all about us feeling, but for all the neutrals, watching that really reminded me of 99. I was at that game. I was at the Old Trafford leg. It was a different Juventus in the Dele Alpi. It was a Juventus that hadn't been knocked out of Europe for about 8 or 9 years. I remember on that occasion, struck me then and to this day, the Juve fans who'd been, certainly maybe people think we merit it, the journalists have been pelted with little coins and bottles of urine and stuff like that. And suddenly the Juve fans that night became really sporting and applauded United off the pitch. And it was a coronation of the outgoing dominant force of Europe to the new one. Maybe that didn't have to happen last night because Spurs showed such naivety in the first 5, 6, 7, even dare I say 10 minutes. They had 10 bad minutes in the stadium of the Italian champions, the hard-nosed European fighters. But boy, I just loved the attitude, the behaviour, the use of the ball. I didn't catch the end of Kev there, more than the end of Kev there, but I wish I had, because while I'd be really critical of Allegri and I'd be critical of his players, and I'd be ultra critical, not for the first time, of Higuain in terms of people miss penalties, but the left-footed chance where it was set up for him to get his hat-trick to kill the tie at 3-1, it was unbelievable that he missed that. Everything was under his control. So while I guess Gazzetta and Corriere will be hammering Higuain today, the maturity and the intelligence of Dembele and Eriksen and Kane, but others too in that side, and also the calm. I watched Pochettino once Spurs were 2-0 down. I watched what he was trying to say. I watched his demeanour, and not only was he transmitting calm to his players, but he knew what they were capable of, Ger. It was an absolutely lovely game of football, and it's another identification of why, speaking personally, I adore the Champions League.
You mentioned Gonzalo Higuain there, and just a quick word on him, Graham. Do you feel that yesterday, like you mentioned that chance, but also the penalty, but also the brilliance of that first goal, from the sublime to the ridiculous, so to speak, when it comes to Gonzalo Higuain, was all present last night? It was almost his career in one match, in microcosm.
It was. I was speaking to Sevilla FC radio yesterday, and I drew a comparison because they were asking me a lot about Lukaku. And I remember when Jardel, the old Porto Brazilian, was playing, I was much more involved with agents who wanted to know about foreign players. Then the internet wasn't nearly so dominant. There wasn't so much available information. And I remember Jardel being offered around many different clubs, and scouts and managers coming back time and again and saying all he does is score goals, which is a really mad little phrase, because what do you want from a striker? Goals. But in terms of intelligence, reliability, movement, in terms of what quality of footballer you are, maybe Lukaku is a cut above. But Jardel and Higuain remind me of each other in a great way. Yes, it was a little crazy encapsulation of Higuain's fallibility, as well as he's got an extraordinary scoring rate. And remember, when he was leaving Real Madrid, he was in the door at Arsenal. His dad was involved, the fee was agreed, the funds were agreed between him and the club, between Madrid and Arsenal. If you look at the goal tally, he's notched since then for both Napoli and Juve. There'll be sort of Arsenal fans going, well, we'd have given our right arm for that number of goals. But what you see time and again, and I don't believe it's simply about the big stage. He's been pilloried for misses in the Copa America final, in the World Cup final, but he just has that in his game where, as much as he can hit the net like a rocket, as much as he'll snaffle untidy goals, there's just something. There are two synapses in the brain that aren't connected, and every now and again, he'll do the most ridiculous thing in front of goals. And if you then draw also a comparison with how Kane worked that Juve defence. This is not news to you. Your coverage of football is astute, and it's, you bring a magnifying glass to what you watch rather than just chronicling it. But it's beautiful to see wherever Kane lands up, not just in terms of goal tally, but in terms of people appreciating how hard he works mentally and how intelligent he is about what he does when he's off the ball, as well as the finishing and on the ball. But it was such a stark comparison between how Kane can test forwards, use space, drop deep, but also what he's capable of doing when he has the ball, the decision making. And Higuain could take a look back if he was a learner, which he's proved not to be. He could take a look backwards over his shoulder and go, oh, it's like that, is it?
What about Moussa Dembele's performance? Again, somebody who kind of has begun to get a lot of credit recently. Was he always this good and just unheralded, or is his career cresting at the moment?
Now, look, it's a fair question. I think that to many people, that combination of an ability to hold people off, ride tackles, having a pretty superb athletic capacity, but also to have the vision and technique to be using the ball well, to show an intelligence about what you do with the ball, to have some goals and assists in your locker. I think that's stood out. Would I be right now, genuinely correct me because my focus is Spanish football, would he have caught my eye playing for Fulham?
Yeah.
That's a genuine question. Is it right? Yeah, okay. But he played for Fulham, really, is what I'm asking for.
Yeah.
Okay. Then to me, I'm guessing, again, from having been at Spurs training, having sat down and interviewed Pochettino, what I think we're seeing is the right material, the right man, moulded by a coach who very much understands what he can give to that squad, to that team. I see a development, I see a maturity, but also my eyes tell me that in Dembele right now, what we're watching is somebody who's loving the responsibility and loving specifically the way that Pochettino wants the team to play. It's almost like the perfect fit.
That's just picking up on Pochettino there and the way he's managed to utilise Dembele in a way that's so attractive to the neutral eye, which we never thought we would see with Moussa Dembele after he kind of shifted into this deeper role, because you mentioned Fulham there when he was in a much more advanced position and he would have caught everybody's eye because he just simply scored more goals. And you mentioned the immeasurable stats, or Kevin and Kenny and Joe there in the clip mentioned the immeasurable stats that Moussa Dembele is putting up. And I think that's testament to the greatness of Maurizio Pochettino. And post Real Madrid, and certainly post last night, and if they go on to win this tie, Pochettino and Kane, while they have dozens of people who will respect him to the nth degree in the United Kingdom, this is suddenly European level stuff when the people who are running clubs at the top echelon of Spanish and Serie A clubs will suddenly look at the likes of Maurizio Pochettino and look at Harry Kane and say, right, these guys are ready-made replacements for our managers or for our strikers who we feel are on the way out.
Yeah, I agree, it's a perfect calling card. My perception is that if you look at the way in which the Spanish, whether that be scouts or managers or the better sides of their media, who look at European football and who talk about football rather than headlines, Kane's case has been made, certainly in this country, irrespective of the very strong briefing from Real Madrid that the AS and Marca columnists and front page designers can talk all they like about Kane, and that's the word from Real Madrid. So let's separate that outside. Here in this country, there is a perception that Kane is the real deal. Maybe not finished, developed in terms of more to come, given his age, but people appreciate almost everything about his game. And there is a perception here, and I've read it and I've listened to people talking about the change in his ability to read a game. And therefore, that's why he's able to score goals consistently at international level for his country and now in the Champions League, because the things that he does are not about simple chances, flat track bully. And I would go all the way back. I would attribute that to how he was taught at Spurs even before Pochettino's influence came on him, because I remember speaking to David Pleat, who nominally is still director of football. I spoke to him at the Berlin Champions League final, which I guess was 2015. David told me that he'd been watching Harry one night at a reserve or under 23 game up in Manchester, and he looked at Kane's movement, and there was a loose ball and a sprint for it. And he saw Kane losing out on something that he thought the striker should have got to. And he spoke to him and he told him, what you're going to need to do is read things more quickly, anticipate them, and have the half yard, half metre that maybe you're not blessed with in your head, and you need to develop that because you can develop that. Pleat's point of view when he was talking to me in 2015 was, if you haven't been born with natural pace, probably you're not going to develop that. Now, what's augmented that clearly and made him European level, world level, apart from the fact that I don't know how often people in Ireland and England talk about this, his actual ability to finish is such high level. He might look big and burly, he might not, sound the most glamorous in terms of like, is he a European man rather than a true, Brit? But that finishing power is superb. And what's really clear from his testimony and Pochettino's testimony is that Pleat's advice was only half of the orange. The other half of the orange was the fact that Harry Kane has now been, he's leaner, he's athletically more powerful than he was. He's not just quicker mentally and reading the game better, he's quicker as an athlete. And I think that, again, like Dembele, it's about a flower blossoming in the perfect conditions. And I've finalised what you were getting at there, is that if it's the perfect conditions, to some degree, to a small degree, it's the perfect conditions for Pochettino. He's been given free rein over the development of the squad, attitudes, behaviour. He's got total control over the atmosphere that he's built there, and Daniel Levy leaves him alone to do that. The training ground is sensational. The ground is going to be sensational. The two big things that will answer your question about whether big squads around the country can tempt them will be, is Daniel Levy ready to recognise that until now, brilliant architect though he's been at Spurs, he's also becoming part of the barrier to them winning really, really big trophies and consistently, because the wage scale, one, stops great players joining them, and two, right now, Daniel Levy is going to have to do something that he's never even considered doing before in order to retain Kane at the right salary, because his wage deal is out of proportion with where he is and how much he's going to be wanted this summer. So it's a fascinating test, and part of me says I'd love to see the development of that squad, that team, and those two men, the manager and the striker, at that club until they win something sizable. Yeah. That, for football's sake, that would be great. In terms of what we thrive on, change, headlines, drama, I'll leave that over to you, boys. Don't
give the game away too much. So this game tonight, Real Madrid against Paris Saint-Germain. At the moment, it looks like most of Real Madrid's best players are fully fit. Is that fair that we should see the best of them tonight?
I'll go with you halfway. Most of their best players are fully fit. Carvajal, who would have started at right back and who's got a bit of the Sergio Ramos about him in terms of big nights, utter determination, sportingly really aggressive, and not a bad assist giver, is suspended. Natural play for him at right back. See the best of them, Ger? I think it's just too soon. I think they've been a little bit unlucky, not only in drawing a Paris Saint-Germain side that look completely convinced about themselves, irrespective of being flat-track bullies in League One. There are questions to be answered by Paris Saint-Germain about their durability, about their mentality under stress, about their defensive capabilities, starting from the middle of defence back. And until they get rid of that monkey on the back, there are questions to be answered about what kind of attitude, albeit the team is better now, they showed in the camp now to be able to take that 6-1 drubbing, where early on in the game, it was clear that they weren't ready, that they were crapping themselves. Right now, they're a different prospect. They've scored, I think, 34 goals more than Real Madrid in all competitions. Now, even in Madrid's worst seasons, that's a really startling statistic. And the reason I say it's a little bit unlucky for Madrid right now is they're on the mend. They're not perfect. They're soft. To concede goals, you don't need to be at 100% to get goals against them. I mean, they give away, if you look at the goals against Levante, and the defeat at home to Villarreal, the first goal against Celta, knocked out at home against Leganés in the Cup. Madrid give away soft goals. Now, against a free-scoring side, that's just a disaster. But also, what's happened is Zidane, during the Cup run, has really done a mini pre-season, particularly on the midfielders, and therefore Kroos and Modric are firing on all cylinders. Ramos isn't match sharp yet, but boy, Ger, full flaws and all, potential red card and all, and him and Neymar have got a thing. They've got a thing. And Neymar, clever little dude that he is, not my favourite Brazilian ever, but he'll be showing to Ramos. He'll be doing a bit of Rudolph Nureyev all around Ramos, going, "Hey baby, do you want to stick a stud in there?" So, and Rocky as a referee, the Italian referee is close to Collina, and you saw UEFA and the diktat from Collina this week saying more protection for big players, more protection for fouls from the back, quicker cards. So that's in the balance too. Madrid, offensively and in terms of teamwork, Chair, are on the rise. And therefore, they could have done with playing Basel in this round and PSG in the next round. But hey, that's your breaks.
We've got the cover of Marca up. Stick it back up there for a sec. And it is it's their 12 Champions Leagues, European Cups rather, I should properly say, and then the UEFA Respect logo. Is the fact that they've won 12, we've won 12 PSG, who are you? Is that what the point of Marca's cover is there? Am I reading too much into that?
At Marca, sometimes they're... I was about to use a word you use in Ireland quite a lot, which starts with gob and ends with something that rhymes with "ite," but maybe I can't at
No, you time. You can, go for it.
Yeah, listen, at Marca, they're gobshites sometimes, but they're very rarely stupid. They know very well who PSG are now. They know very well that PSG could come to the Bernabeu and win. They could win both legs. What they're saying is, and it's been evocative of tough times at Real Madrid. It's every time there's a really big European night and Madrid are not informed, it's like you're tilting for the 11th, the 12th, and now the 13th. So there has been this, there was a famous player called Juanito, a brilliant winger, and what he used to do was play brilliantly on big European nights, and if he was enraged, he'd stamp on somebody's head. I don't know if you remember his outstanding sort of kung fu stamp on Lothar Matthäus's head in the Bayern tie, and he'd been involved with keepers, with supporters, and he was just a terrier. He's dead now, unfortunately, died in a car crash. But they always ask for 11 Juanitos every time they're struggling, and the demand is that the crowd get behind them and that everybody focuses on this could be another European Cup. So the idea is it's a rallying call for the beleaguered home side rather than a who are you for Paris Saint-Germain. But if Paris Saint-Germain take it that way, then fair play to them. Go for it, lads.
It's an unbelievably exciting game, Graham, just in terms of on the paper, in terms of the two teams. But then you throw in the Neymar element of that and the will he, won't he go to Real Madrid. But then you also throw in how unbelievably high the stakes are for both managers, because this PSG team, let's face it, Graham, has been formed for this competition and this competition alone. Real Madrid, everything else is done, and this may be Zidane's last chance at salvation for this season.
Outside France, you're the only one I hear talking about the other side of the coin, and I appreciate the point because, Paris Saint-Germain have had their own way in their cup competitions. They're through the final against Monaco and won. They're utterly dominant in League One. Their goal-scoring tally is extraordinary. They're enjoying flat-track bullying for the moment. That won't be sufficient for their players in the long term, in my view. But if you take it even beyond Unai Emery, who you were talking about, and the pressure on him, the pressure on the relationship between the club, the squad, and the owners probably doesn't feel gigantic to us because nobody's talking about it, and everybody's assuming that Paris Saint-Germain will win this tie. Let's look at it the other way. Real Madrid are not mugs. Paris Saint-Germain are getting them more or less at the right time. But should the unthinkable happen and Real Madrid get a score draw at home tonight, which is what I think will happen, or get a single goal win, and then they go to Paris and they produce something, which I guess is in about 3-4 weeks' time when they'll be stronger. Let's say in that hypothetical case, which I think is, moderately hard to imagine at the moment, but not out of the question. What do the owners do at Paris Saint-Germain? Who do they buy? How much more money do they invest? The 400 million euros pretty much on Mbappe and Neymar. When does their patience run out? Whoever goes through it, despite living in Spain and benefiting from Spanish teams doing well, my attitude to this tie is may the better team win by a million miles. And I want to see how it develops. I want to see where the cracks are in each team. And I want to see if Paris Saint-Germain can be good enough to bully a good side, a sort of laureled side, a side that knows that Europe is its palace. I want to see that. I want to understand that. But if they go and the owners are saying, well, we've picked the wrong league, not just the wrong club, we've picked the wrong league, that our money can't buy the competitive power each weekend such that we can tip over the big boys. Because right now, if this had been Paris Saint-Germain, Manchester City, then, not without a second thought, my money would still be on City to knock Paris Saint-Germain out. Okay, the group situations meant that draw wasn't going to happen. But right now, am I convinced that Paris Saint-Germain are already good enough to win the Champions League? Not quite. And therefore, to me, it's a fascinating time. I go back to my Real Madrid are a little bit undercooked. They're on the boil, but they're a little bit undercooked. And I think that's a shame. I'd much rather have seen this tie in a couple of weeks' time or in another round, just to see like you said, Jared, the very best of both teams.
Final quick question. The Porto-Liverpool game. Are Liverpool in the right form at the moment just to be able to do enough over the two legs?
It's my perception that Porto aren't as good an 11, and that they play in a league whereby the actual quality has gone down because of the need of the debt situation in Portuguese football, particularly the big clubs here, is utterly horrendous. They consistently ship out their best players. Now, Porto are not mugs, and Porto are a threat. But in your words, are Liverpool good enough? Are they in the right form? Do they have the right ability? Then, particularly if the choice of goalkeeper is right, I can't see a case for Karius not being in goal. Other than that, then my favourites over the two games are definitely Liverpool. I think they merit that in terms of what they've got creatively and up front. I don't think you're going to see Porto playing, say, for example, like Swansea did. And is it an easy win? Is it a guaranteed win? I don't see either of those things. But in terms of looking at their opponents and looking at what Liverpool can do and are able to do regularly, then I see Liverpool progressing, Joe.
Graham, great stuff. Enjoy the games tonight. Thanks a million.
Cheers, fellas.
Graham Hunter helping us to preview tonight's big game, really, which is the one that's not on TV in Ireland.
Yeah, Nathan was saying yesterday that Real Madrid PSG is the hipster's choice. I don't think you can really call it the hipster's choice. I think it's the non-Liverpool fan's choice.
Yeah.
Like, even if you're a Manchester United fan and you might get potential glee from seeing Liverpool maybe suffer against Porto.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
You still want to watch PSG Real Madrid.
I think that, like, if it was Liverpool against somebody who you thought was going to knock them out over the two legs, you'd be happy to watch that.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
To hate watch them, but now it's like you're going to hate watch them potentially winning an entertaining game.
That's the thing.
Doing all the good things Liverpool are supposed to do.
Yeah, scoring loads of goals. Liverpool are not an iPad team, by the way. Phil Egan out in the office was saying that he might have Real Madrid PSG on the TV and then Liverpool Porto on your iPad. You can't do that tonight. It's one screen and one screen only. There's going to be too much happening in each of these respective games for you to go dual screen. But also as well, just on the point of last night, and Graham kind of touched on it, just how brilliant last night's game was. And like, whenever it comes to international breaks, and there's these think pieces every November about international football and how international football is failing, and they talk about how great the club game is. Well, this is when we really enjoy the flip side of that, because the Champions League is amazing. Like, last night was an amazing game. It was so enjoyable. It was such high quality, maybe a couple of missed passes here and there. But even in general, when you compare it to, say, a Premier League game where one of the big six aren't playing, or if it's not two of the big six in the same game, for example, you do notice the difference, the appreciable difference between that and a game between Juventus and Spurs. It's great to have it back.
Yeah, this is late form capitalism's best thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Football has become ridiculous.
Like, I completely accept the downsides to all of this, as in, basic human values and stuff like that. Yeah. But,
a living wage for the people who work for these clubs.
Precisely, but, the kind of... you kind of feel like Caesar sitting in the Colosseum back in the day, that this is what this is like,
It turns out you're not Caesar, though. You're just one of the goons in the... Yeah, this is amazing. Look at these people killing each other for our fun.
Yeah, well, it really is
unless
fun.
You are, unless this is the start of you becoming Caesar.
Well, I wouldn't complain, I'd rather be Caesar than, well, I don't know what the alternative is, but...
Yeah, well, life as it is now.
Yeah, I'd take Caesar.
Illegally streaming football from other countries at some point.
Well, good on the Champions League for being available free to air. And
well, loads of these games end up on YouTube, right, from BT.
Really, yeah?
Yeah, because they have to put them out for everybody, and I'm not sure that they geo-block them for the Republic of Ireland always.
Right, that's interesting.
Matt, is it this or is it the European Champions Cup games that we've been watching on?
You can always get a lot of rugby on YouTube, but you'd want to be quick because it sometimes gets taken down within the next couple of days. But
this is live on the official BT channel. Like, it's not an accident. It's just the stuff that maybe they don't always talk about. And we haven't even talked about the fact that Sky have re-upped on their deal with the Premier League at a lower value per game. It's down 17% per game.
Yeah.
On the previous deal. So the crazy inflation is perhaps coming off the TV rights. Although, having said that, while there would have been huge inflation in the UK domestic rights, as they're called, the massive growth was coming from the worldwide rights, and it's still to be seen exactly what happens with those. So everybody was kind of hoping, if you were interested in them going up, which I guess the football club owners and the Premier League were, that Amazon or Google or somebody would come in with a massive amount of money and steal a package of rights from Sky and BT. That so far hasn't happened. There are 2 packages left, which Sky can only get one of because of the competition rules. But maybe they're just interested in the worldwide rights. Maybe they just want the streaming rights for Asia and for North America and South America, and that's where we're going to see the next round of crazy inflation. Or perhaps the football bubble has just reached a kind of levelling off and everybody's decided, well, let's wait and see exactly what happens to the other technologies in the next couple of years.
I think it might be that. I think it's just expanded to the point where people have started looking around and realise how dangerous this could be if it expands any further. So this current set of rights here is always going to be like this. The interesting one, just in terms of the breakdown of the matches that I find, is the Package C, which was won by Sky Sports. So there's 24 matches in this to be split evenly, to be split some way between 2 o'clock on a Sunday and 7:45 on a Saturday night. You would suspect for the first season of these games they will kind of be an even split, maybe more on the Sunday. But then you suddenly look at the figures at 7:45 on a Saturday night and they'll start thinking to themselves, wait a minute, the 7:45 on a Saturday night is ridiculously successful. Turns out people want to watch football over X Factor or Strictly Come Dancing.
Yeah.
And games on Sundays might be a thing of the past. Or maybe they'll just move all the 3 o'clock on a Saturday over to Sunday and let a full round of fixtures occur, a game every week at 7:45 on a Saturday. I think this is going to be the big thing from this rights deal, that they'll experiment with this new time slot. But how is it going to fail?
I don't know. It might fail by people not showing up to the matches, and so the atmosphere being a bit crappy.
Premier League games?
See, like, that was the argument, was like, it's really bad for fans. But what if you just make it a London derby, a Birmingham derby, or Midlands derby? If you just make it games where, like, the fans don't have that far to travel. Because I think there's only 8 games for the first year. Is that right, on a Saturday night? There's a bit of a dipping your toe in the water with it.
Yes, sorry. It's not a 24. It's a 32 split. 24 on the Sundays at 2 and 8 on Saturdays at 7:45. So that ratio will be interesting to see how that goes.
Because everybody's saying, you can't have Newcastle fans in London on Saturday night when the last train is something like 10:30. So how the hell are they going to get home? They've got to get buses. It's a pretty horrific journey at that hour. So it's not really with the fans in mind. And one of the great things about the Premier League is that the grounds are full. The atmosphere is amazing. But what if it was just 8 London derbies that you put on Saturday night where the tube still runs, none of those complaints are valid anymore? Then suddenly you've got a pretty compelling product to go up against whatever shitty reality TV show is voguish at the time. I mean, maybe the virus that is X Factor, as it's now become, continues and is still there at the end of this deal.
Well, it survived through the apocalypse that we thought was going to kill it, which was like social media and, people being able to go out and seek their own content rather than being robots and having this thing placed in front of them. But it's still going, isn't it?
I think so.
As far as I'm aware.
I'm not sure.
Kind of turn it on once every November. It's like these auditions are always fun. I've seen this terrible singer come along every time. But
yeah, I mean, like most things, wasn't it actually really good for a while?
Yeah, 2010 was the peak. I think most people of a certain age will look back on their Twitter and Facebook timelines at giving takes on X Factor when they were like 15 or 16. When I say some people, I mean me.
Yeah. Who, you were a fan of Leona Lewis?
Well, I think everybody's a fan of Leona Lewis, but I think the people that got most people talking was Wagner. Do you remember him?
I do, yeah.
The crazy man. And yeah.
Not really that crazy, not really that much of a character at all, but just in the comparative cookie cutter identikit world of teenage wannabe pop stars, a man who is like potentially in his 30s seemed ancient.
If he was only in his 30s, then I'll eat my hat. He was definitely 50-something.
I don't know, maybe. Plastic surgery's come a long way these days. Seamus O'Connor speaking to Cliona Foley after his performance in the half-pipe semi-final yesterday. Have a look at this.
I was really close, you know, but that's kind of how snowboarding half-pipe is. You're on it or you're really close, but you're not quite there.
And Seamus, 16 months ago in New Zealand in the World Cup, you completely blew out your knee. You had to have a full reconstruction. So how does it feel to even be back and competing at the Olympic qualifying in the half-pipe?
Right after that incident, I wasn't really sure if I was ever going to be competing again, let alone going to the Olympics. And the time on the couch really gave me some time to think about what I wanted to do. And I set my sights here on Pyeongchang, and it was all up in the air. I had no clue if I was going to be able to do it, but I worked hard and really just put in everything I had. And to be here back for a second time it's unreal. It's very, very surreal.
And you really went for it, big time.
Yeah. I mean, I did the best I can do, and today wasn't quite enough, but I did everything I could.
Can you make a third Olympics? Would you like to be here in China in 4 years' time again?
It's a long ways away, but being here and looking at the Olympic rings, competing here, I would say I'll be happy to give it another shot. Obviously, it's a long time from now. I have a lot of thinking to do, but I don't think you've heard the end of Seamus O'Connor just yet.
Well, that's pretty good. Seamus O'Connor, good morning to you. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing very well. How are we doing?
So 24 hours on from leaving it all out there, how do you reflect now on the Olympics for you in 2018?
I mean, obviously, I have a smile on my face still. It was a tough day yesterday and last night and still even this morning. Coming to the terms with the fact that I didn't, land my second run in a similar situation to what happened in Sochi. But, that's just how it is sometimes. And I did the best I could do on the day. And I think I just have to be happy with that and move forward.
So look, we were actually talking earlier on about one of the speed skaters who ends up taking a big risk and finishes outside of the medals when she basically left it all out there trying to go for gold. You did something similar. Maybe you might just explain to us, you took a massive risk on your second run to try and catapult you back into contention, and it just didn't work out. So just for the neophytes out there, just explain what happened, will you?
Sure, of course. So after my first run, I was sitting just 1 point away from the 12th position. They took 12 into finals, and I was just there in the 13th spot. So I knew that I had to step up my run, get some more amplitude in there, land my tricks better, hold my grabs, and really just put it all out there in order to try to make that final push. Unfortunately, sometimes you put it all in and you don't get it all out, and that's what happened. But I'm happy to say that I gave it my all, and like I said earlier, it's really all you can do on the day. Did
you try a specific move that you hadn't tried for 2 years?
Yeah, exactly. So the last trick that I did is a frontside 1260, so it's 3.5 rotations. And I haven't done that trick in, about over 2 years. The run that I actually did yesterday, I haven't done a caliber of that run in an even longer period of time. So to go out there and do that trick and do that run feels really good, considering where I was just, a little over a year ago.
Am I right in saying yesterday, Seamus, that it was one of the best half-pipe sessions we've ever seen? And is that a regular occurrence when it comes to qualification? Because I would have thought that a lot of people, the likes of the Sean Whites, would have been saving their best work for the final and their last run of the tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. Hands down, the most intense competition that I've ever been a part of. Certainly the most intense qualification round I've ever seen. It was just different from the practice session in the morning, which was 45 minutes, and then all the way through to the end of the second runs. People were just, going full tilt all day long. And like you said, that doesn't often happen in the qualification rounds. So everyone really brought their A game.
You mentioned there that you've come a long way in a year, and we heard a clip from the interview where Cliona was talking to you about blowing out your knee. When you blow out your knee in that circumstances, and there is a target away in the distance, it can get very difficult for anybody to just maintain the general mental health that is required to see yourself through rehab. How did you manage to do that?
Yeah, that was probably honestly way harder than any of the physical rehab that I had to do. Just keeping, a calm mental state and staying motivated and really kind of deciding what it was that I wanted to do and make sure my goals were aligning with the things that I did on a daily basis. Really, I wouldn't be able to do it without my support crew, just my family, my friends, my physiotherapists, my team. Without that sort of support on a daily basis, none of this would have been possible.
Were there times when you thought that you wouldn't make it?
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. I mean, even before I got on the board, sitting on the couch or in physiotherapy, struggling to walk or even bend my knee to 90 degrees, couldn't really even ride a stationary bike. I'm like, wow, is this what it's going to be like? It was a long recovery. It took a really long time to even, accomplish really normal standard things that we take for granted on a daily basis. So I had no clue if it was going to work out. And then I went back to New Zealand and competed in the same event that I had got hurt in and came out with an amazing result. I think I got 11th or 12th. And from that day forward, I had just a extreme boost of confidence, and it solidified it in my mind that this was doable.
When you're talking, and again, anybody who's actually seen it will realize that you go up quite high in the air and you're going to land on ice, which is hard or is as hard as concrete. It requires bottle, the thing that, I don't know if you use that word in your lexicon, but it requires courage to actually risk the physical damage to your body, and particularly after you've had a horrific injury like that. The first time that you go back out to just go through the motions, do you remember that moment? And do you remember what that felt like?
Yeah, absolutely. Usually you get an injury, of this sort of caliber doing some kind of crazy big trick. And the trick that I got hurt on was something that, I've done probably 1,000 times before. And so one of those first days when I got out there and dropped into a half pipe again, I kind of made myself go and do that trick a couple times. Because I know if I didn't do it early, like it would be a thing in my mind that I wouldn't be able to get rid of. That little voice in your head that's always kind of nagging at you. And I was obviously, pretty scared, to be honest with you, when I was getting back into it. But I had made the decision that I was gonna try and I was gonna do this, and I kind of just didn't let myself turn back.
What happened if you were thinking about this and the severity of the injury, first of all, that you start to think that you may not appear at this Olympics? And I know Cliona was asking you there whether or not you'll come back and whether or not you'll appear in the 2022 Olympics, because you've been professional since the age of 13. This has been your life up until this point. Like, there's one thing leaving your favourite sport when you're an amateur, but it's a completely different thing when you're weighing up leaving your sport that you've been professional at for 7 years.
Yeah, I've got a lot on my mind right now, for sure. And the next 4 years are definitely up in the air at the moment. But, initially when I was recovering and I set the goal that I want to come here to Pyeongchang, I didn't really see anything after that. I was like, all right, I'm going to go to Pyeongchang, and then that'll probably be it. I can end on a good note, and I'll have accomplished that goal, and I can move on with a smile. Now it's a similar situation as in Sochi. I'm kind of left with this feeling that I want more, and that I I can't stop yet. You know, I feel old in the sport, being 20, but then, you know, yesterday I'm like, I think I could go another 4 years. You know, I'll only be 24. That's not too old. I think I can do it. So, you know, I've got a lot of thinking to do for sure, like I said yesterday. But there's something special about representing your country, going to the Olympics, going through this process, and I guess it just makes you hungry and motivated for even more.
What's life like as a professional snowboarder? So out of competition, like, do you do other things, or is this a full-time, you have to just follow the weather around the world? Like, what is it actually like? What have the last couple of years, apart from the recovery of injury, been like?
It's pretty full-time. You know, when I was fully on the circuit, I would say I snowboarded at least 7 to 8 months out of the year. I've been out of school now for the past 2 years, so I haven't had to worry about that as much lately. But when I was in school, you know, it was snowboarding every day, 9 till 2. And then I would come home and do school from about 3 to 6 or 7, eat dinner and go to bed. It was kind of like just live, sleep, and dreamed snowboarding. That was all I did. But now, you know, having been out of school for a little while, obviously you're traveling from, you know, the northern hemisphere down to the southern hemisphere, chasing the seasons. But I mean, it's a really incredible lifestyle. I'm extremely lucky to have lived this life and continue to do so. We go to you know, insanely beautiful places on almost a weekly basis. The people that I'm surrounded by are such an amazing group of people. We're all friends. We're all excited to see each other. And it's a surreal lifestyle, and I think that's really one of the main reasons why I want to keep doing this. Like you guys said, I've been in this sport for a long time. You know, professional since 13, and for a long time it's been all I've really known. And to really switch off and go to a different aspect seems like a really big step. And in August I'll be going to school, so I'll be making my way towards that step. But I think it's definitely possible that I can balance the two sort of lifestyles and get the best of both worlds.
What's your view on the health of the sport in general? Because you think back to the days of SSX Tricky, for example, which was kind of a moment in snowboarding which managed to penetrate the rest of the world, the people who wouldn't have seen this as a sport that they know much about. We've mentioned Shaun White. He managed to penetrate that same level of society that wouldn't have been brought up around snowboarding. And then you look at the performers over the last couple of days, like Chloe Kim yesterday in the women's version of your event, becoming a global superstar basically straight away, and Red Gerard as well, another teenager who is becoming a global superstar. And it seems that snowboarding, and now's the time to do it, is almost on this crest of a wave where it might penetrate the worldwide consciousness once again.
I think so. Snowboarding is an incredible spectator sport. You know, it really grabs people's attention, and now with the level that people are riding, with the tricks that they're doing, it's impossible to ignore. You know, when you turn on the TV and there's a bunch of different Olympic sports, in my opinion, the freestyle snowboarding and skiing kind of sticks out from a few of the others. You know, it grabs your attention, and I think if snowboarding can penetrate that sort of mainstream population and really kind of hit home with a lot of people that are outside our sport and get more attention, I think it can really flourish. But we'll see. You know, I feel that at every Olympic Games there's a lot of hype during the games, and then obviously afterwards things tend to settle down a little bit. But obviously, you know, with Shaun White coming back again, Red Gerard, Chloe Kim, these are all going to be names that people are going to know for a really long time, and hopefully it brings the rest of the sport up with them.
Seamus, how did the connection with the Olympic Council of Ireland first come about? Because as Owen said, you were 13 when you turned pro, but you were 16 when you make the Olympics. Was that a difficult process? Did they contact you and say, here, listen, or did you get in touch with them and say, I could actually go to the Olympics and I'm totally Irish qualified?
So I have my dad to thank for that, for sure. A lot of this back way before 2014, I think was kind of a pipe dream of his, and then he, you know, brought the idea to me, and I obviously fell in love with it right away. And I had like a little sponsor me tape video when I was about 11 or 12, and I think we sent that to the council over in Ireland, and we got a reply back within a couple of days or a week, and kind of the relationship was started from there.
So it was really straightforward in the end. It was like
it was pretty straightforward. Yeah, I mean, at that time, I think especially snowboarding, that division of snow sports, I don't think there really was a division, a snowboarding division, and so I think it was new territory for everyone involved. And obviously, when things like that are developing, people maybe a little bit skeptical, like, oh, there's this kid coming over saying he can represent us. But once we all got on the same page and we met and we talked, and I started representing Ireland at lower level events like World Cups and National Cups, and I started really backing it. Things took off, and that seems like just yesterday, but now here we are.
Where's your dad from? What's his connection?
So my grandparents on my dad's side, my grandfather's from Dublin and my grandmother's from Drogheda. My father was actually born in Birmingham, England, but he was brought up for the first couple of years of his life in Ireland. He was going back and forth. So that's my connection on my father's side, and then my mom's, her side of the family is Russian. So a little bit different. Yeah,
a pretty diverse ethnic mix, but it turns out great for snowboarding.
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, listen, James, best of luck. Congratulations, and hopefully we see you in 4 years no matter what happens.
Hey, thank you so much, guys. Yeah, well, I'll do my best. We'll see what happens.
Thanks a million, man. Best of luck. That's Seamus O'Connor there representing Ireland in the halfpipe.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, I do kind of want to bust out the PS2 again and get SSX Tricky back on, because I think everybody wants to do that after they played, after they watched the Winter Olympics.
Not shitting you, I had to Google it.
It was one of the most famous sports. 2001, is that how long ago? Yeah, yeah. Wow, mainly the PS1 then to actually hook that thing up, because it was like a friend of mine, a couple of his older brothers had it, and it was like, wow, this game is amazing. And it had a really cool soundtrack as well.
Run DMC, yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those iconic video games, and certainly something that, as I mentioned there with Seamus, just everybody was interested in it. It wasn't like kind of these cool people in California who just played this video game. We were playing it down in Kerry, so I think that it's pretty safe to say that it went all around the world.
Yeah, all the way to Fireys anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. We had Donnacha Ryan in studio last Friday. We put a good half-hour chunk of this already up on YouTube, but there was some really interesting stuff that we didn't include in that part. Here's part two. Here he is talking about the importance of entertainment in the game of rugby and how he feels part of the entertainment industry as much as a sports person. And also, sweet-talking referees and preparing for life after retirement. Have a look.
Look, the reality is, what we're in is kind of an entertainment kind of game. So people, when they're watching the game, want to see the ball and play, and like the ball and play in a Pro 14 game is on average is 43-44 minutes. And you look at the Munster Leinster game in Thomond Park, the ball is in play 51 minutes.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So that's great. And then, but like the same time, people then, when they're having a go at maybe players for being injury prone, the probability of a player getting injured is significantly increased because you're under fatigue and the ball isn't played an awful lot more.
Yeah.
So your guys are going to get injured and there's going to be breakdown, and that's what happens as well. So whereas you look at the top 14, the ball is in play for an average about 34 minutes, and it's like you have these power instant moments, like they are incredible, but then it's kind of a bit of a slog from here.
A bit more like American football, really.
Yeah, and whereas I've just in the last, I suppose, month or two that I've probably changed a bit is we've in wrestling we have in the new stadium, the arena, we've so we played against Claremont, and even the Munster game the ball was in play a lot, but in the Claremont game I was chatting to Ron Poit after the game, and he said it was the fastest game and the longest time the ball was in play he's ever been involved in.
Right.
So the ball was in play for about 43 minutes in that game.
Okay.
But the reality is, so you take the Munster Leinster game at Thomond, and let's say if you're a 100-metre sprinter, and if I say give you two tracks, you said, listen, there's a dirt track here for you to run your 100-metre sprint, or an Olympic track here which you want to run fast.
Yeah.
You're going to pick the Olympic track. And you look at, so in the arena, sterile conditions, people want to go and see people running. Like if you're going to watch a 100-metre sprint in Olympic fire, you want to see who's running the fastest, not who's coming eighth.
Yeah.
So as I said, the lads can reach top speed way quicker in the arena, and I know the Munster guys, the backs anyway, they definitely enjoy playing that, and I think that's going to be kind of the future.
I was going to say, but how knackered are you after it?
Yeah, you're sucking diesel as well. Because after 20 minutes, I looked at the clock and I can't believe we're going to play 61 minutes of this. This is insane. And I even looked at Roman Watt. He was resetting a few scrums that there was nothing wrong with it. He was Kevin. And even afterwards, he said he was giving me a rundown on his abductors and his lower back and everything. But
French?
I know he speaks English now. He's a good guy. But
look at you, sweet talking the referees. This is that's experience.
Well, I've a theory in that. I for years actually would have been on the other end of like going ballistic about referees, but they're a team in themselves, and they do a very important job in the whole thing that we do. And they're on the same circuit we are, but they train by themselves.
Yeah.
And I had a very good relationship with majority, all the referees, I think, for the most part. And I make it my business, I suppose, after a game to go in there, win or lose. After we lost Scarlets, it was my last game in the final for Munster, and we obviously got pumped as well. I spent 20 minutes in with Steve Davis and Nigel after the game. Just had a couple of beers and chatting away, and because for the most part they're obviously as I said, they're a massive part of the game. They're a good crack as well, and they said they're their own team, and I think definitely the Pro 4, they really had the Pro 4 team be as good as it has been, because they let the game go, they talk to players, and that helps massively. You
obviously had Rog there for a little while before he headed off to New Zealand as well. And just listening to you, it doesn't sound like you're somebody who wants to turn your back on rugby whenever you decide that as a 40-year-old that you've had enough as a player. Do you want to be involved in coaching or that side of the game? Because you've obviously thought a little bit about this.
Yeah, I did a couple of years ago, because I love being challenged, and I love. That's why Raj was great, because for me anyway, because you chat technically about. Constantly watch all the Pro 14 games still at the weekends, and you say, "Well, do you see what they did?" And just that's really clever. And so we could also do this, and I love that the planning side of things and the analysis. I absolutely love. I think players shoot from the hip when they start talking about going into coaching. It's no picnic, and
it's grim enough. You as a player get your downtime and you're actually forced to rest. They're not. They're constantly on.
Well, I would. I know, because I do a lot of analysis anyway, but I maybe would watch maybe 13, 14 games a week, and you're
going to be a coach.
No, I only do it because
it'd be a waste of all that work if you didn't stay involved.
But I love my job. It's not like and I've been fishing my time when I'm doing it, so I'm not watching the air breaks and stuff. Literally you fly through it. But I think I don't know about going to coaching. You'd really want to be you'd really want to know your stuff. You want to be organised, and then dealing with people as well. It's such a scope of difference of personalities you've got to be able to manage. And as I said, in Ireland, there's a massive amount of scrutiny in Ireland, coaching in Ireland as well, and playing in Ireland. I only noticed it since I left, because it's you've got the radio stations, and you've got all the newspapers, and you've got social media, you have the applications and stuff, and there's a lot of articles about players as well. So if you're a new player coming into the game, your gradual growth before would have been profile would have been slow enough. Now it's seismic within 2 months if you do something great.
Yeah.
And a coach, if you do something bad, or word can get out a lot quicker, because you have players,
agents,
immediate family as well, and then you're gossiping down the pub, and it's all innocent, but it begins to grow, and then that gets out as well, and people know. And look, it's just, you'd really want to be self-assured, I suppose, especially coaching in Ireland, and I really know your stuff, and I think the coaches in Ireland are doing a great job as well.
Is part of that why you left? Because you look, John Muldoon is heading to England to cut his teeth as a coach, and the easy thing would have been to wangle a job in Connacht, because everybody would assume Mr. Connacht, he's like the lifeblood of that thing. He's been there through that season where they lost every game, and then here he is now, kind of has experienced the highs and lows, and you think straight into it. But actually the best thing for him to do is to go away and learn, and is that part of your thinking about getting out of the system too? So you do have that bit of distance and go, Jesus, that scrutiny is pretty intense.
I don't know. The scrutiny's part of it. Like, I enjoy being in Nina, and it was great. Been back home, and if you're ever down, it's a great place where everyone pick you up or whatever. It's brilliant. But like, it's there's a. Like, you get no scrutiny. When I leave the training centre in Paris, nobody has a clue who you are. Like, they're either think you're Wayne Rooney walking down the street or something like that. Wayne Rooney on a ladder, more like. But I could say a few other ones, but no. The reality is, I do enjoy, like, helping other people, younger guys. I get massive satisfaction out of doing that, because there is no textbook to teach younger guys what experienced players are feeling now. And even as coaches, it evolves so quickly within 2 years what's going on the pitch. And I think while you're still playing, you're able to give those little nuggets of information to players, is like, like how to roll away properly quickly and all these little things. But and I think I get massive satisfaction doing that at the moment. Coaching point of view, and it's great to see John doing that, because it's very good to get out of your comfort zone. You could go in, do the Connacht job, and then if it went well, great. If it didn't go well,
you're stuck.
You're kind of stuck. But like, you've never left.
Yeah.
You've never got out of your comfort zone. You're still in the same place your entire life, and it'll always be there as well. If you're good enough, you can come back and do a more justifiable job at having had the experience of gone away.
Yeah.
But the best thing is, like, I know, having gone away, I have massive appreciation for foreign players having coming into Munster.
Yeah. You're not bitter about leaving at all. Like, there's no sense of.
That's why, like, that's the best thing about it, because I absolutely love Munster, and like, I do know guys, and I would have been bitter leaving Munster at the end, but they felt they've had another contract after them, and I never want to experience that. And it's just because they've given so much to the club and love it. And that does happen. Like, it happens every day in employment. It's like, I give 30 years to that place, and
I got nothing.
Turf me out. And that does happen. And I don't know how I'd react if it happened to me, but why put yourself in that situation at that particular stage?
It's kind of preemptive in a way.
Yeah, I suppose I would like to be in some bit of control of what I can manage, and I suppose you're trying to do things, make provisions now that your future self will appreciate. Yeah. And as it, learning a language gets me out of my comfort zone and can open up opportunities after rugby as well. As I said, just trying to, everybody knows the job I do is smashing heads for a living, really. Whereas you're trying to find the next best job after it. Really, that's the challenge.
Yeah, I really hope the next best job for Donnacha involves being involved in a coaching ticket somewhere. Really thoughtful guy, really clever, breaks down the game in a really interesting way, and now has that experience of being outside.
Yeah, we've kind of spoken about it before, kind of hothousing coaching talent in Ireland, and whether or not that might become a thing of the future. I think Donnacha Ryan exemplifies why that would be a very, very good idea, especially when you see somebody like Ronan O'Gara, who, by all accounts, when we see the testimonials from his players at Racing and how good he was, that he's just in New Zealand now. And of course, the suspicion is that he will come back to Ireland and one day become a great coach in Ireland, but maybe we could be doing a little bit more ourselves to hothouse this coaching talent.
Definitely, and the more of them that are out there, the better for everybody involved. Right, so the League of Ireland season returns this week. Our brand new Off the Ball League of Ireland podcast is available for download wherever you get your podcasts. Yesterday, Oisin Langan was down at the launch and spoke with the Cork City manager, John Caulfield. Have a look.
Yeah, I suppose what I mean in a nutshell, Oisin, is that I think our written media coverage of the league here is phenomenal. It's top class. I just feel that the more exposure we get on radio shows, TV shows, will enhance the game. It's a professional league. It's a top league in our country. Every country in Europe has weekly matches on TV. We don't. Yes, a lot's going for our league. Yes, we are getting a lot of coverage. I believe we should be getting more because we're the top league in the country. We're a professional league. We're playing in European football, and I just believe we need to get to the stage where we have a weekly game on TV. I don't think having a live match on a Friday night is a good idea. I think we should have a live match every Thursday night at 7:30, 8 o'clock, because all the League of Ireland football family are out supporting their teams on a Friday night. So if I'm a manager, if I'm a supporter, I want to see the game on TV.
Yeah, good outside the box thinking from somebody heavily involved in the league who knows exactly what he's talking about, with years and years of experience of having watched this thing kind of reach the point that it's at. But the Thursday night fixture is a good idea, and I could totally see somebody like Air Sport going, Yeah, okay. Now, the issue is that they have rights to the Europa League, but how many Europa League? I suppose it's next 5 or 6 weeks there would be a clash, so that's tough enough. But they've got 2 channels. Maybe they could do it that way.
Yeah, and I don't see anything wrong with kind of putting a greater emphasis on the Thursday night football after the Europa League is finished. I mean, kind of.
Well, all summer long.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there is nothing wrong sometimes with acknowledging the elephant in the room, which we've spoken about ourselves before. And of course, you could still continue to have games on throughout the Europa League. The figures are going to be low because of the quality of the Europa League, especially this season. But come the summer, you'd imagine those figures would be quite good. I mean, what is it competing with? What live sport is there going to be on a Thursday night? Well, you do with the World Cup, but this summer. But on a regular summer, there was nothing on a Thursday night that would go up against it, and that's where you're tapping into a new market.
Yeah, I mean, putting games on TV when there are games for people to go hasn't really proven to be a pathway to greatness for other leagues around the world. So there is right to have a look at trying to do something different. But yeah, so more League of Ireland goodness available on the Off the Ball League of Ireland podcast as well. Now, Keith Wood and Stephen Ferris are on tonight's Off the Ball talking about Ireland's Grand Slam prospects. Are we officially just going out there and saying it's Grand Slam at this point? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I just think Wales...
Well, nobody loses at home in the Six Nations, Ger.
The spread has come in from 11 to 10. I'm like, what? Is no one paying any attention? This should be a 3-point spread.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous. Wales are 4-1 to win a game that they win every second year.
The spread on Wales last Saturday was 12 points, which they covered, or they got inside, rather. They so 10-11 points for Ireland. As in, are England 2 points better than Ireland? You'd probably think so.
Wales were cheated out of a try.
Yeah, that as well.
One of the stupidest, crappiest decisions in world sports history that, like, Eddie Jones like, you've got to stop relitigating this, mate. Like, no, you don't. You've got to remind everybody that you're getting all these crappy decisions, Eddie.
Yeah.
That's what needs to happen.
I hope that plays in our favour by the end of the competition, that everybody is kind of on the fence and it's like, do you know what?
Hang on. England have already had their good decision. They need to get all the bad decisions now.
Yeah, that could win us a Grand Slam.
Yeah, well, I'd be happy enough with that if we accidentally got one we didn't deserve. Happy days. Tess Arbez skiing event has been postponed again. This is just some breaking news in Pyeongchang. Continuing high winds have meant that only one alpine skiing event has taken place in the first 5 days. And for the second time in 3 days, Tess Arbez had an event postponed at the Alpine Centre. Women's slalom was delayed twice before it was eventually called off almost 2 hours later and has been rescheduled to Friday. So the wind was up to 70 kilometres an hour. She said it was moving her while she was standing still on her skis.
It's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. There's nothing obviously you can do about it, but the winds this week have caused absolute chaos, having an appreciable effect on what's actually happening. It's happened many times, like people going over slopes and they're not reaching where they need to get to, so they're blowing back and falling on, as you've mentioned with I guess Seamus O'Connor earlier on, that it's like hard ice.
Yeah.
And when you go up to that level and you're suddenly being blown back, you're falling straight down on your back onto that ice, which we've seen a couple of times.
Galway manager Kevin Walsh is going to talk to us tonight about his side's spiky win over Mayo at the weekend. Philippe Auclair is also going to be on to preview Paris Saint-Germain against Real Madrid right up to kick-off from 7 o'clock on Off the Ball tonight. We're back tomorrow morning from 7:45. You can watch back today's Off the Ball AM on youtube.com/Off the Ball, or of course you can listen to our audio-only stream if you're driving on offtheball.com. Our full interview with Seamus O'Connor, the full Donnacha Ryan chat, and Graham Hunter on the thriller in Turin and Madrid against PSG is all up there now for your delectation. Enjoy the rest of your day. We'll see you tomorrow. Good luck.